You're listening to KFI AM 640 on demand.
I'm Andy Riesmeyer. This is Later with Mo Kelly. I am in for Mr. Mo Kelly. I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock tonight. Would love to hear from you at Andy KTLA if you've got some thoughts. Of course, you can normally see me Monday, Tuesday, and when else? Thursday on the KTLA Morning News, and then on the weekend show. I'm here on the weekends as well. You can access me in a lot of ways. It's a lot of me, which is great if you're a fan. If you don't like me, that's a struggle. I get it. We've got a lot on the show tonight. Just talking to Conway about the Pacific Airshow at Huntington Beach. That is going to be exciting. Big airplane people. Love the planes. We'll tell you about what to expect. We're actually going to talk to one of the pilots. Of course, there's no military jets there due to the government shutdown, but the short takeoff and landing planes, the stall planes. Now, listen, you usually don't want a plane that's called a stall plane, right? That's like the number one thing you don't want in an aircraft is stalling. But we are going to talk to one of the pilots of those planes, tell us about what to expect. They land on the beach, I think. Great time down there in Huntington Beach. Beautiful day today. It's going to be beautiful this weekend. Like I said, we will have that just in a little bit. Plus, a woman who lives in Altadena, Shawna Dawson, she lost her home in the Eaton fire. She'll join us also to talk about her reaction to this report that the Board of Supervisors spent $2 million on. $2 million of our money. And the people in Altadena don't like the report. The Board of Supervisors slammed the report on Tuesday. We're going to get a reaction and see what the community members are thinking about with that. Plus, a new dating app. You know those dating apps out there. What a hell that is. It's going to actually ask you if you want to receive nudes now. How fun is that? Good stuff. But before we get into that, something is afoot in the Valley. Bad news in the Valley. The Studio City, Equinox. Better not lock up your watch while you go to pump some irons, as they say.
According to the LAPD, this isn't just happening at gyms, but also at parks, yoga studios, essentially anywhere where people have their guard down. And the victim in this case, he says he took off his watch, he put it inside the locker. When he came back, it was gone.
I put my watch inside the locker.
Darius Hicks is referring to his $20,000 Rolex he believes was stolen from this Equinox Gym in Studio City.
Took a shower and steamed. I came back maybe about 15 minutes or so.
Did she call it? It's Alina Obovian, who I think is a great reporter, but I think she's pronouncing Equinox. Like Erewhon.
The pricey piece of jewelry was inside a locker, which was locked, he says. It was on September 18th and still no clues as to who could have taken it. What's worse, the watch had sentimental value, a reminder of his best friend who passed away at a young age.
That's terrible. I also got to say something about this. So believe it or not, and I know this is going to sound out of touch, I am a member of this Equinox. I did not know why I signed up for this, but I worked for a company many years ago where I got a really good deal on it. And I'm hoping that no one from Equinox finds out I don't work for that company anymore, because I think I'm still grandfathered in on that deal. But I'm sure had they known that I changed careers, I probably wouldn't qualify for this. But I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and when we listen to the rest of the story, I'll tell you what I think.
Starting real estate together and doing quite a few real estate deals. And then we bought these matching Rolexes as a celebratory thing. Maybe about 3 years later, he passed away at the age of 36.
And while police have not yet confirmed this case is linked to others, law enforcement has cautioned before that locker rooms across LA from the Valley to the West Side have become hotspots for theft.
Wow. I don't get this. When you go to the Equinox, and again, when you look at me, I understand why you think I don't go to the gym a lot. I'm on the same, I'm 100%. But when you go to the gym here, you open up the locker, you put your stuff in there, and then you close it, and then there's a keypad, and it's like a magnetic lock, and it's pretty secure. And if you lose or forget the keypad or the number or whatever on the keypad, you got to go ask a manager who will then walk over with a clipboard. He'll ask you what's in the locker. You have to tell him what's in the locker. He makes a note of it with the clipboard, and I think he actually takes the license, takes down your license. So this is very strange.
After the suspects go and enter gymnasium and they go through the lockers, we've seen locks that are cut and broken real easy versus the ones that are solid, great locks. There's no way they were able to touch those items.
The department says the best
But you don't put your own lock on. That's not how that works. I don't know what's going on here. I think only the manager has access to those. You need a special key to get in there. This doesn't make a lot of sense.
Says the best advice is to invest in a strong, sturdy lock or just leave your valuables at home.
Yeah,
I don't wear watches very much anymore, so I think in the last couple of years, people used to wear watches all the time.
Wow, that guy's so proud of not wearing a watch. Have you ever heard somebody so smug about not wearing a watch? It's so over. It's so last year. Listen.
Wear watches very much anymore.
Or just leave your valuables at home.
I don't wear watches very much anymore, so I think in the last couple of years, people used to wear watches all the time.
But get with the program, Miss Abovian.
I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt or something. I'm not wearing a watch right now.
In response to the theft, Equinox says, we take the security of our members' property very seriously and are assisting law enforcement following a recent incident. As for Hicks, he posted the devastating incident on his social media only to realize he isn't alone.
There isn't any recourse. When you're going to these gyms, when you're going out grocery shopping, just on your everyday errands, be vigilant because people are wowed. And it's insane that you can't go to the gym without being robbed.
All right. I think that the setup there was something like Alina Abovian talked to gym goers to see if they had any insight onto what went down there. And I asked, who is gym goers? Lionel Richie is in hot water, I guess, kind of. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Plus, a dating app that asks if you want to see nudes. What a world we're living in. So much news here today on this Thursday in Los Angeles.
You're listening to KFI AM 640 on demand.
Andy Riesmeyer in for Mr. Mo Kelly. Let's go out to Altadena. There's some news that broke just earlier today about the Eaton fire, or at least the moments leading up to it. An investigation by NPR, that's an up-and-coming radio station, found issues with SoCal Edison power lines the morning before the Eaton fire destroyed part of Altadena. So this would have been hours. Because if you remember back on January 7th, the fire started in the Palisades that morning and then we didn't see a lot of smoke or at least a lot of activity happening in Altadena until much later in the afternoon. But distribution lines are basically the lines that go into individual houses from the power company. And they were failing as early as 11 a.m. And at least one was linked to a fire. And like I said, hours before the fire actually broke out at Eaton Canyon. Firefighters responded during the morning and the afternoon, and although SoCal Edison could have shut off power to most of the circuits in the area, they didn't. It is the latest investigation in the last week about the fires. A $2 million report commissioned by the Board of Supervisors found failures at the county level, but did not put the blame squarely on any department or any person. Immediately, the reaction from the community was negative. On Tuesday, the county criticized their own report, saying it was full of gaping holes and didn't answer the question, why did evacuation alerts come so late for so many? I'm sure you remember 19 people died in the Eaton fire. 18 of those were in West Altadena, that community didn't receive those emergency alerts to evacuate until way farther into the morning. Many people who live in Altadena are also frustrated by this report, including Shawna Dawson, who runs the community group and social media account Beautiful Altadena. She joins us with Lauren Randolph, who also lost a home in Altadena during the fire. Good evening to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us on tonight.
So I want to ask, your initial reaction from the fire report on Thursday was publicized, Shawna, pretty well in the Los Angeles Times and in other media. You were really displeased with it. When Tuesday rolled around, the Board of Supervisors took a look at that and sort of echoed what you were saying, in that the report really didn't go very far, or at least didn't give the people in Altadena what they were hoping for. What were you guys looking for in this report?
You know, I'll kick it off by just saying I think that what Altadena was looking for some form of accountability, right? What was promised by the county was that this report would bring some clear, fact-based review of how the alerts, warnings, and evacuations were handled, specifically in West Altadena, which is a historically Black community, and where we saw the majority, all but one, of the 19 documented deaths. And I say documented because we still have neighbors who are missing. We've lost neighbors since the fire to suicides and to other complications. So that death toll is not representative. But what we got instead was carefully and conveniently worded PR spin, tiptoeing around the county's missteps, no assigning of responsibility anywhere in particular. If anyone's seen the Spider-Man meme of everyone pointing at the other Spider-Man,
of course,
that's it. It's like, that's right. We shared that actually on our social media account. And so, this is what brought community members and community organizers together. So Lauren and I, separate of our representations with our organizations, myself at Beautiful Altadena, Lauren as an Altogether Black captain, both of us total loss survivors west of Lake. We are also part of an organization called Altadenans for Accountability. And so we ended up bringing together a couple hundred of our neighbors in very short notice in Altadena to have a press conference to communicate loud and clear how unsatisfactory this is for a community that needs some form of justice and true accountability. And clearly we were heard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that you must at least feel good to hear Supervisor Barger, and a few of the other Board of Supervisors say, yeah, this didn't go far enough. And how upsetting is that? It almost feels like it must be insult to injury to look at this and say, there's $2 million that were spent on this study that ostensibly could have gone to helping rebuild, and we have less answers than we could have ever expected.
Right. I'm going to let Lauren take that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, a lot of what came out of the McChrystal report were things we already knew, right? We knew we were understaffed. We knew we weren't prepared. We didn't need a $2 million report to tell us that. Yeah. We needed the report to tell us why the 911 calls in West Altadena were unanswered and why an evacuation didn't come through sooner, and why we didn't get those alerts sooner, and why there wasn't a better, more coordinated effort other than community members.
Do you have any indication why there was so little findings, I guess? Or, I mean, it was a sense of, this was an independent report that was paid for by the county, but does it feel like there was some of CYA action happening?
Yeah, I think definitely. It feels like it was kind of a performative report rather than a report that really dove into investigating. I think the first page of the report says this is not an investigation and it's not to lay blame. And if we're paying this much for a report, it should be an investigation to understand what went wrong and how to do better next time so that this doesn't happen again anywhere in LA County.
Yeah, I think it's obvious when you look at the photos of the aftermath of this now, almost 10 months later, and how devastating it was. But even now, how little it feels like has been done. You just say, like, what is happening right now? I mean, what's your sense, I mean, at least in the community, about the sentiment of how the rebuilding process has been going at a county level?
I think it's frustrating, Shawna. I don't know if you've started the process, but I have talked to a lot of neighbors who have started, and it seems like red tape and disconnect. The process is supposed to be quicker to get permitting and rebuild, and there's no consistency in how long anybody's plans get turned around. And then every day there's a new report on soil or air. So you start to rebuild and you start to make a decision, and then you gain more information that is being let out and investigated. So it makes it really difficult to push forward. And then on top of that, you add the McChrystal report and a lack of clear understanding of what happened that night to fix it. And it makes it hard to move forward.
Do you have any indication, Shawna, sort of what happens next here? I mean, I almost want to say, like, I get the urge to say, okay, well, you didn't fix the situation. Who's your boss that I can talk to? Which I know is probably not the right
a little of that.
headspace, but
I'm not gonna use the euphemism that we tend to the last few years.
Sure.
For that. because it's it would undermine what is at stake here. But the bottom line is, our organizations, our coalition of organizations are very clear in our demands, and it is that Attorney General Rob Bonta conduct a true independent investigation with subpoena power, because that is the only way that we are going to get what we need. That report is a report. It's not an investigation. It's not actionable. We've had reports like this in the past. There was one after we had one after the Woolsey fire.
Right.
Half the things that motions were passed and promises were made to implement were not implemented. If they had been, you and I would not be having this conversation.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's okay. I was going to say, ultimately, we need a real investigation with subpoena power that agencies cannot dodge. I think it's critical to understand that report was not only full of errors and inaccuracies, and it's absurd. Some of the passages are absurd. I don't know that we have time tonight to cover them. There's a few doozies in there. But the biggest, hole to me is the fact that entire swaths of data are missing. The LA County Sheriff Luna, effectively right now, in tandem with OEM and LA County Fire, heads up emergency response. The LA Sheriff's Department did not provide any data for this report. Wow. They declined to do that. And the only way it's going to happen is if our Attorney General compels them to do it. So that is what our organization and ultimately our community and the tens of thousands of Altadenans that we represent are asking for.
Can you stick with us through a break here? We'll be right back after
Absolutely.
Just a couple minutes here. And we want to hear more sort of about what you and your community group, not only what you want, but also what you think can happen to help the community move forward, but also what maybe will give you guys an indication of if there will be any accountability here going forward. Because obviously no one wants this to happen again. This is something that, as a person who doesn't live in that neighborhood, but still is obviously very aware of it, I don't know that I've heard a lot of accountability and a lot of things that have changed. So let's talk about that just after the break. But now, checking in with...
It just happened to us. Who's next? I said it just happened to us. Who do you think is next?
Well said. So we'll continue this conversation with Shawna and Lauren about the Altadena fires and the unfortunately disappointing report here from the Board of Supervisors at the county level.
You're listening to KFI AM 640 on demand.
I'm Andy Riesmeyer in for Mo Kelly tonight. We're talking about the Eaton fire. Of course, that's one of two devastating fires that took place earlier this year in Los Angeles, or at least LA County. We had more than 6,000 structures burn in Altadena. And I remember so well after the fires, the phrase that you saw all over social media, and you would see it in real life if you drove through Altadena afterwards when we were covering it. The words were, Altadena is not for sale. And the essence was to preserve these neighborhoods where families have lived for generations. But I imagine that insurance money, the loss of use money is what they call it, that's what you spend while you wait around to rebuild, only lasts so long. And so now we come up here on 10 months. And what has been done? We have a report from the county that the county themselves was dissatisfied with. Community members are upset. They're worried there is no plan. Joining us right now, Lauren Randolph and Shawna Dawson. Shawna and Lauren, both community organizers. Shawna runs the beautiful Altadena Instagram social media account. And the two of you both lost homes in this fire. So this is so personal to you. And I'm so sorry. And I just, my heart goes out to you, because to think about losing your home is one thing. But then to think about, I don't know how long it will be until I can build it back, must be really terrible. Shawna, this NPR report that just came out earlier today disclosed a lot of details that were not in this report from the county.
It did. I have to say, I think it was a bombshell for a lot of people who must have been reading that today. But for those of us who live in the community, I know Lauren and I have exchanged our own personal stories, as we both know people who reported fires earlier in the day. This is not a surprise. It's just another omission in this lackluster $2 million piece of paper, right? there's 100 pages that we got for this. But, there were fires reported as early as 3 and 4 p.m. in Altadena, started by downed electrical lines, reported to 911, reported to the fire department, reported to SCE. And still, power was not cut. One of the other fallacies in that report is that there was no cell signal. This is why they couldn't track. This could be another cause for why there was no evacuation warning. All of that is very patently untrue because power was still on in many areas and people had clear phone signals, for example, to call their loved ones and tell them to get out when no warning came.
At what point do you think right? I mean, people's lives were lost in these parts of town, and even if you had been way outside of the evacuation zone, you knew how wonky that evacuation warning system was. I mean, people were getting those evacuation warnings in Calabasas, in northern parts of Los Angeles County that were nowhere near the fire evacuation zones.
Right.
At what point, I'm asking, this is a real question, this is not a leading question, but does this verge on criminal at some point?
It makes you wonder, right? It really does make you wonder between SCE and everyone else who is culpable here. Who does pay the ultimate price for this other than our community? And I say our community because outside of all these lives that have been lost and the 9,000 homes and structures that have been lost, and the thousands of our neighbors who have been displaced. And to your point, Andy, they'll never be able to come back, right? Between insurance running out or being underinsured or completely uninsured or being renters or being elders who can't possibly get through a rebuild or people with young families who cannot spend the next 5 years doing this. Pick something, right? The fabric of our community is forever changed. And, it'll be the topic, I think, frankly, of another show and another conversation. But with some of the legislation, including SB 9 and AB 782, we're looking at our community in the rebuild being forever changed beyond the challenges, beyond all the broken promises around permits and suspension of SB 9 to adhere our CSD. I know that's a lot of numbers and letters.
I think the sentiment is
we have big issues.
Is right. Yeah, we have big issues. And as you said before, if there is no accountability, and I'm assuming, one of the things that they said in the original report was like, well, we don't want to blame any. This isn't about blaming people. But I also hear from the community saying, I don't think that you guys are trying to tar and feather people in the town square. I'm assuming.
No.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that you just want to make sure that there's accountability so this doesn't happen again. Because as we said before, those conditions, though they were absurd, certainly can happen again.
They were extraordinary, but they weren't unprecedented. Sorry, please go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, the same thing. I grew up in Southern California. The Santa Ana winds have been something my entire life that we've known about. High fire, earthquakes, right? These are all things. These are all environmental factors that we've known about, and especially I think coming out of the Riesmeyer fire in the 2018 report and thinking there would be reforms to make us safer and seeing how far away we were from enacting everything that needed to be does warrant accountability. Yes, we're not trying to roll heads in the street and we're not shouting to fire everybody, but we want to understand who made these decisions, who didn't make these good decisions, right? Who made the decision that when there were 911 calls coming in from actual people seeing flames and fire in Altadena, decided to ignore that and not evacuate those residents earlier.
Yeah.
I think it is important to know who was making these calls because it doesn't add up and there should be accountability in any other job, right? If a doctor messes up or something, there's accountability most of the time.
Well said. We will leave it at that. Thank you, both of you, for making time for me. I know you did John Cobalt earlier, so I'm sure you're tired, but I really appreciate it. And please stay in touch, and please let us know how it goes. It's people like you who are going to make it so that this doesn't happen again. Because obviously, left to their own devices, they'll put out a report that doesn't really give us any plan or pathway forward. So, Lauren and Shawna, I'm so sorry about your losses, and I'm sorry about the continual pain that this community is going through. I think that it's a tragedy, and I just don't understand how a place that is so proud, California, Los Angeles, so proud of how big our government is, how much money we pay, how many elected officials we have, and how much we trust, or some trust, in the local government, that they cannot get it together to help these people. That's the whole point, I think, of government, is to make sure that your people are safe and they're able to have a quality of life. And so I'm so sorry.
We think that our property tax dollars pay for those things, right?
You would think, but
we would think.
Here we are. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us on tonight.
Yes, and there they go.
You so much.
You can find her, Shawna, at Beautiful Altadena on Instagram. And follow along, of course, with all of the rebuilding there. They're really doing just the most important stuff that you could be doing. And the energy that you would have to continue to fight over and over and over again for this many months. And I'm sure we're not even close to being done with this fight. Really appreciate you.
You're listening to KFI AM 640 on demand.
And from my mouth to your ears, yuck. I'm Andy Riesmeyer in for Mo Kelly on this evening. Later with Mo Kelly, your normally scheduled host is taking some, I guess, well-needed time off, well-deserved time off, and I think he'll be back on Monday. But here's the deal. This weekend, as you might know, is, of course, the Pacific Airshow down in Huntington Beach. Man, it's cool. And yes, sure, the government shutdown means that we don't have some of the military jets that you're used to seeing, but and I have this on pretty good authority, the Canadian forces are bringing their snowbirds. They got their parachute display teams from the UK, the Royal Air Force. They're still working. They're still clocking in and out. They got the Royal Air Force is bringing a big old C-17. And then a couple people are bringing their private fighter jets, their former military jets. So there's still going to be awesome things to see. The Red Bull Flyers will be there. And you got to check out, this is very exciting, Mike Daniel and the Cheshire Cat. It's called a STOL aircraft, STOL, which we're going to find out what that means right now with Mike Daniel, who's joining us now. Sir, I hope we're not cutting into your pilot rest.
No, what's up, Andy? Thanks for having me. I am sitting, I think, at the corner of Magnolia and Slater, just battling Huntington Beach stoplights. All good. Just got off the beach. Had a few practice landings and demos with a couple individuals who had a time of their lives, and I'm just heading back across town.
So this Cheshire Cat is the name of your plane, and it is a small single-engine aircraft. And I don't know if it's will you call it an experimental plane, perhaps?
Yep.
And it's got these big knobby tires that look like they're like the big they look like they're inflatable. They almost look like you could eat it like a donut. And you are STOL, stall means short takeoff and landing. You're going to be taking off and landing that plane on the beach at the Pacific Airshow.
That's right. So you're hitting right on the nail. The plane is a bush plane. It's meant to land off airport, in the dirt, in the woods, on the beach, in the grass, that type of stuff. That's the type of flying we do. Backcountry aircraft. A lot of people will familiarize bush flying with Alaska bush pilots, things like that. But there's a huge community of bush pilots across kind of the country down here in the lower 48. And, we get, the best opportunity to come in and land on the beach, which is almost unheard of in all of the state of California and many other, coastal areas.
I don't even want to think. I don't even want to think what the Coastal Commission thinks about this. I don't even want to think about the insurance. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I just know that it looks awesome. And that thing must be so fun to fly. I'm sure it doesn't weigh more than a thimble.
Yep, it's 1,200 pounds. They call them dirt bike of the sky. So if you can think about what that might mean, they're basically a big boy toy, if you want to call it that. Just a very, very capable plane, very easy and friendly. I mean, it's a lot of people say they are very difficult to fly. I mean, I fly it. I've become very accustomed to it.
Yeah, Captain Mike doesn't have any problem with that. So you know how long it takes? How long it takes to go up and down the beach there with all those red lights? Which everybody sat in. It's like 30 minutes to get from Seal Beach all the way down to Long Beach through Sunset Beach or whatever, all the way to the end. When you're in that aircraft, and I know it's not an F-16, but how long does it take you to get that little stretch?
Yeah, so the stretch, oh gosh, I'm going about, let's put it this way. I can be flying just about the same rate as the traffic is going along the road. But the nice thing about my aircraft is it does have a decent cruise speed. So I can cruise, comfortably at about 120 miles an hour. And I actually live in the Lake Tahoe area. I'm from Truckee, California.
Hey, love Truckee.
I love coming down here. Love Truckee, great place. And to fly direct Truckee down here to Huntington takes me about 3 hours on the nose. So if you were driving, I don't know what it is, 7-8 hours. So it's not an overly fast aircraft, but you definitely get from point A to point B a lot quicker.
Yes, sir. And I bet it's beautiful flying up there in the Eastern Sierra.
It's gorgeous, and the type of flying we do is low and slow, so we're not very high off the ground, and you get just the most incredible views all the way down. I actually flew the 395 down here this time, and it was just, I'm so grateful to be able to do this and see the world from just up above.
Is this your full-time gig?
No, not at all. I am 100% a recreational pilot.
Cool.
So I actually, my background is in design and marketing, but actually about 7-8 years ago, I quit drinking and needed a new awesome hobby. I have a big background in the skateboard world, and I've been beat up pretty good from that, and wanted to sort of take that same level of adrenaline and rush and sort of, I don't even know what to call it, like kind of that lifestyle culture and take it into something next. And backcountry flying, I really gravitated to and just really latched onto it and dove in full board, got my pilot's license, and I used to see the guys driving around with big bubbly tires and coming back dirty. And I'd say, where are those guys coming from? What are they doing?
Cool.
That's what I want to be doing.
Right.
And that's how I got into the tailwheel aircrafts and the backcountry flying.
That's amazing. Captain Mike, thank you so much for being with us. You're going to be at the Pacific Airshow. When will you be flying if people want to come and check you out?
So here's what's going on with my plane. I actually am parked on static display. My plane has a sweepstakes along with it. I have a QR code on the side of the plane. You scan the code, you point your phone at the Cheshire Cat, which is on the side graphic. It's right by the front entrance. You can't miss it. And that brings up a little augmented reality experience. The cat comes to life through the lens of your phone, and it'll bring up a call to action to enter a sweepstakes to fly off the beach with me on Sunday.
Wow.
So that's what my plane will be doing all weekend. Luke Chapella, many of you may or may not know if you follow any of the aviation world, famous Red Bull pilot. The guy who landed on the helipad in Dubai.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be the one flying the beach demonstrations. He's got a yellow Carbon Cub that will be flying around during the show. So
that's pretty cool.
He'll be the one actually flying. My plane will just be sitting on the beach, but enter to win. Maybe somebody listening to the show right now will get a chance to fly off the beach.
Let us hope so. The Pacific Airshow down in Huntington Beach all weekend. Tickets are still available, of course. I know the military jets aren't there, but there's a lot of fun. Captain Mike, thank you so much for calling. We'll take a look at trying to get a little jump seat ride with you out there on the beach. Appreciate you.
100%.
Be safe. Safe flying this weekend, my friend. This is KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640 on demand.